Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Inner Edison. What I think you take away from today's show is some of your greatest accomplishments will come from your greatest defeats. Today's guest is Justin Kline. Let's welcome him and get to know his story and what they do. All right, Justin, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
Oh, my
Nice
pleasure.
to be here.
My pleasure. I kind of know about you because I searched you before you came. I brought you on the show, and plus everybody sent me everything to get hooked up with you. But what's your story? Have you do quickly little story about yourself?
Sure.
How you kind of got to here?
Yeah, that's definitely a loaded question, but like happy to get into it.
Loaded, loaded question.
So
Well,
let's,
abridged version, all right, not the long version.
yeah. So, okay. How did I get to where I am? I studied marketing in school. I went to the University of Tampa. It's like a small liberal arts school. Wanted to be a musician originally.
Shocking.
Yeah, right.
You got the look. You got you wear those nice hats and the different things. You got the look. So.
And I was touring around, busking, like street performing, doing all that stuff for a couple years out of school. Then I decided to, kind of get a real job, and I got into advertising. I was working at a company called Inner Markets at first, managing all of the inventory for a site called Drudge Report. And then after that, I moved to a company called ClearSpring Technologies. They later bought a company called Add This, which is a sharing tool that became pretty widespread. We were basically cookieing the entire world and putting them into different buckets and then selling that data for advertising.
Right.
And that's kind of like where I cut my teeth as far as like, software engineering and stuff. I mean, back like when I was a little kid, like I would take computers apart and like put them back together. And like, I also got into hacking, and I would like be able to figure out how to like change passwords and like get into, machines. So like, I've always been like very like technologically, inclined, if you will. But then, yeah, music kind of got in the middle of that. And then I later kind of, got back into the technology part. I was like at ClearSpring, I would like, pick all the brains of all the, engineers there, and, just kind of like refound, my love for, programming and software and computers. And that's where I met, a co-founder of Markerly, Ralph Noor. We, sparked a friendship, and, we were building like tools within the company to help streamline like all of the advertising processes and to like monitor campaigns, right? Because that was a big deal. Like it was a lot of it was very manual, but it was very repetitive. So I devised a way, like a system to better manage all that stuff, to just monitor like how campaigns are doing. And then I came up with an idea to, Markerly started as a completely different thing, right? Like it was a highlighter for the web at first. And like my vision for it was that like all of the world's most interesting content would be highlighted, like all user generated, kind of like a textbook, like buying a used textbook, right? Like ideally you're getting like a used textbook from someone that's smart, and that is like, and they're the ones that are doing all the highlighting, you would hope. But the idea was like, oh, the whole web could be like that, like all of the articles, like that would be amazing. And then I could just go straight to like the Cliffs notes of like all of the, all the best stuff of the web essentially. And it would all be user generated. And I imagine like a whole community that could be built around this, like a whole network. And we raised money, got into like this program called 500 Startups. And then we decided like, okay, we want to start like monetizing more quickly. Like we'd have to have like crazy scale. We had our code on a bunch of blog sites. And at the time, right back in 2012 and 2013, influencer marketing was really like, exclusive to mom blogs. It was like very blogging focused, and like the mommy blogs were like all the rage, and all the brands wanted to tap into like the mommy blog kind of world because they were so social and they got crazy engagement. And obviously it's evolved from there, to encompass Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat. And it's been really fun to kind of be on that journey, just to, be a part of that and to see all of that evolve and to be able to like start integrating all these different components and into campaigns. And now we're very much a full service influencer marketing agency with a lot of proprietary technology on the back end to streamline all the processes that are involved, because there are so many different moving parts in these types of campaigns.
Question for you: what do you define an influencer today?
So, me personally, my definition is probably different than the consensus out in the world, because I think influence, right? I think that predates marketing and advertising, right? Right. There were cavemen who would influence each other to do things, right? Now it's become this word that means you have to have a lot of followers on social media. And I think that's fine. But I think there's underlying meaning, and what that is anyone that can influence another person to do something, whether that's to buy a product, whether that's to donate to an organization, or to, make sure that they're masking up during a pandemic. They're anyone that has the ability to persuade others to do something has some influence, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. I just want to know, because I know I went on your site and you talked about what an influencer was, and I think that we lose that today, where people think you're only an influencer if you have over 10,000 followers on Instagram or this and that. But it's you have to have the knowledge of whatever it is that you're doing to make sense to be an influencer. I mean, that's how I take it. But I know people don't take it that way today. They think, oh, so-and-so is an influencer because they have all these followers. Well, what do they really know? Right.
Right. Exactly. And, it helps to know about what you're trying to persuade people to do, right? You're more persuasive if you're knowledgeable about what you're persuading about.
Yeah, I mean, because everything's evolved so much in the last 20 years, last 10 years. Things have totally changed how it used to be. I mean, prior to you're talking about the mommy blog and the blogging back then, I did a blog that was called Real Estate Jerky. We give you something to chew on, right? I turned that into a radio show recently in the last few years, just because it was a totally different market that could have went somewhere else. And that's because I've been doing that for a very long time. I'm in the mortgage industry, and I've been dealing with people out of referrals and basic everything forever because of what the knowledge I had and what I gave people. So your definition of it being an influencer is, I totally agree with, because it's more than just, I think, online.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere, right?
Right.
Yeah. Humanity is, influence is kind of meshed into society.
Right. Yeah, because I think a lot of people today are going, okay, well, there's a lot of change on how things are brought to me, right, by different companies, by different things, that not necessarily is this who I want to get that information from. So I think they're searching offline as much as they are searching online for information. And I could be wrong, but that's just kind of how I feel. So,
well, they ask their friends, right? It's a lot of it is community based,
right.
And I think that influence, if you look at the research, people that you trust, right? They're going to be more influential on you. So I think obviously your close friends and family are going to be more influential. Provided that you trust them,
right.
than a stranger, even if they have 10,000 followers or 1 million followers, right?
Yeah. And they could have less than that and they still are influencers. So what do you guys do at your company now? Because you were talking about how it evolved. Do you focus mainly on influencing marketing, that whole marketing, or what do you do? Do you build people? How do you do that? Or what do you do?
Yeah. So we build large scale influencer campaigns for our clients, right? And that is usually best for consumer brands, or organizations that want to reach like the masses, right? Influencer marketing for like businesses is a little different, but it can still be done, but it just needs to be executed a certain way. And then we have a whole platform that like streamlines all the processes. So like obviously there are many different components. So that would include strategy. So like, what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to target? What's the message? What's a good outcome? What is the end goal? Figuring all that out and then building a program around that, right? And then obviously like identification, like who are we reaching out to maybe want to be a part of this program that we're putting together. That's an important component. Once we have all the people figured out, right, then it's about and there's steps within that, right? Like you have to do outreach, you have to go back and forth. There's legal involved because there's like a lot of contract negotiating that is involved there, to try to figure out like, okay, are we going to pay this person? Are we going to give them free product? What are the usage rights of the content? Are we going to want to repurpose this for advertising? So all of those details need to get ironed out. And then obviously, the main kind of way that we work with influencers is to create content. So they're either creating, editorial content, like the blog stuff that we started out with, photo content, or what's becoming, I would say, 80% of what we do, video content, because video is super engaging. Now it's everywhere, right? Like all the major platforms, have really strong video capabilities at this point. So yeah, and everyone's internet connection, right? Like now is super great, which can support the videos. So that, like all of that, kind of gets ironed out. Like they create the content, and we have like a very specific kind of process to ensure that all the content is getting created, in alignment with, the brief and like what the story of the initiative is, right? Like, so basically we're making sure that like everything is holistically aligned with the organization and their story, essentially. And then we have tracking and optimization thereafter once the content goes live, and it's this whole process. And then we rinse and repeat, and then we also have boosting, which is becoming a part of, I would say 90% of our campaigns have a boosting component at this point, which is basically a fancy word for advertising. You have these people create the content, and then you want to, get this content, out there even more, right? You want to amplify it. So we can do whitelisting, which basically means that like, we can advertise the posts, the native posts, so that, it's coming from the influencers, and we can then target very granularly to specific communities, so that we, we're going in with a scalpel in terms of targeting to make sure we're hitting the right people.
Gotcha. No, I totally follow what you're talking about because I've been doing video for a while now, and I do multiple podcasts and lives and YouTubes, and then all the stuff you're talking about is what we're doing. But what is your guys' perfect client? Is there a perfect client that you guys work with? And I got two questions there. Is perfect client, and then do you guys build influencers, or do you take somebody who already is one and to make them greater?
Yeah, good question. So perfect client, I mean, we do a lot of like CPG, we do a lot, I think mission driven brands, right? Like we're doing a lot of stuff with like government entities, like nonprofits, and then brands that, where it's more than just making money, right? Like I think like we're starting to lean more towards those types of clients. Obviously, like conversions are important, and we're always optimizing, for conversions if that's what the client wants, which is very common, right? Like everyone's in the business to make money, but I think that there should be more to the story than that, right? And I think that actually ends up becoming a more profitable way of going about it, in the long run, right? People want to buy products from companies that have, some sort of cause, or like, there needs to be more to the story. And those brands typically will do better.
I think a lot of people want to work for a company that has a cause, or a cause they can get
Right.
behind, right? That's something they get behind. In our industry, we do a lot with veterans because I am one, but we help them in many different ways. So, and I see a lot of the stuff that we're doing, that you're talking about online and doing, is what we used to do is go to like a Rotary or through some other organization with your company. You go through that and you'd give and do certain things, and then they'd see what you did and they'd come back for your company. Well, now you're doing it to where everybody can see what you're doing. You follow me? A larger
Yeah, I
community.
mean,
Yeah,
absolutely, because everything is out there on the internet now, and which is great, right? Because if you're doing great things, you want other people to see it. You want to be able to like galvanize people to do things that that are aligned with your purpose.
I totally agree. So what second part of that question, remember, was what do you guys normally take? Do you build influencers, or do you just?
Oh yeah, that's right. So we have before, but that's not really our focus right now. We're very like particular. Influencers reach out to us all the time, and where I feel bad because I feel like we turn down a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, I think like the whole like building of an influencer, that's almost, I don't know, like I feel like it needs to be natural, right? Like just do what you love, make content, and that should be enough to build yourself, right? And then if you are doing things that a brand wants to align themselves with, then they'll reach out to you, and we are the agent, of the brand in many cases, that ends up reaching out to influencers.
Yeah, I think a lot of people quit before they're going to be successful, right? They do all this. So I totally agree with what you're talking about. It takes time to build who you are and build your brand, build everything about what you're doing. And a lot of people don't want to put that time in. They want to instantaneously become that influencer. And I think that it's just like education and learning certain things. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and you need to build. I mean, occasionally there's some things that happen overnight, right? There's exceptions to every rule, but all right. So when you come across and someone wants to work with you, because I noticed on your site, you were talking about a lot of companies, you can do a campaign to like pick up bottles and trash and certain things, emotional thing to get behind some. Do you see a lot of companies doing that now, where they come with a cause and they make that such a huge.
So
see what I'm trying.
Yeah. So we're trying to push our clients more in that direction, right? Because we think that it's more impactful. I still think that, it's going to take time for brands like en masse to want to do programs like that. It's kind of like, we added it as like a silly example, right? Like if you're
it's a great example, but anyway.
Yeah, like it, why not, get a bunch of these models or people to pick up trash on the beach, right, as a way to let the world know that like you care about the planet, and that can help your brand help add purpose to the brand, right? And we can use influencers to spread a message like that. So I mean, we do a lot of stuff for like state and local governments, and it's really great because we're actually like saving lives, right? Like if we save one life, it's worth it. And I think that, I mean, those types of programs are just, I love those. If we can save turtles,
Okay. I was going to ask, how are you saving lives? Because you started talking about there's stuff you do with the state and government, and if you can save one life, what are you can you go more into depth with what you're talking about?
Yeah, like drunk driving, right?
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
Like content to prevent people or to remind people, hey, don't drink and drive, right? Like if someone sees that and decides, oh, maybe they were thinking, oh, I'm going to have like 8 drinks tonight and whatever, I'm just going to drive home. Like if they see that content and then decide not to do that, right? Like how many, like what's the ripple effect of that? Right. And I mean, that's more on like the purpose driven kind of campaigns that we do. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely like dear to my heart. Like I think those are really important to me. Yeah.
Why do you think companies are resistant to do these type of campaigns?
I think most brands, right, like know that they have to do influencer marketing. Like it has to be that box that they check because all their competitors are doing it and they're seeing results and they're seeing ROI from it. So I think like 5 years ago, right, it was like it was a little more murky, but now brands like they're doing it like on the regular because of how well it works. So it's not necessarily like selling brands on like influencer marketing per se. I think, I mean, because it's more personal than just an ad, right? Like you can have a billboard, right? But like how personable is that? Like if you can have a person like actually spreading the message, like, hey, this product is awesome and I tried this and it did wonders for me in X and Y ways. That's way more impactful.
Right. I think it has to do with the emotional factor of the message too, because you could have a billboard, but it's got to be emotional, right? I remember years, this is a long time ago, right? We're talking a long time ago. They have these commercials about trash in California, right? And there would be some guy on the side of the road, a Native American who's crying because someone threw trash on the road, right? They made it emotional so that you wouldn't throw trash on the road. So it's been that way for a long period of time. I think for a while there, we forgot how important that is in our marketing to make sure people have an emotional response to what we're doing.
Yeah. No, I think emotions, that's the heart of it.
Right.
No pun intended. I think, if you can harp on people's emotions, that's going to help you trigger a response. If it's to purchase a product, right? Because wow, like that person, I can tell in that person's eyes that they love that product. It's so authentic. I'm going to buy that product. That like I can tell this is a product I need to buy. That definitely I think is a huge component to why influencer marketing works so well. And yes, it can be communicated in other channels, in other formats. Because at the end of the day, it's just humans communicating to humans. So yeah, I mean, I agree.
You don't have to agree, but anyway, what do you see happening in this channel going forward with what you're doing? Do you see any major changes or things that are going to, anything you know about that's going to come around that's going to make a big difference in this whole channel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that influence, like people's ability to realize like, okay, this is not authentic, this is an ad, or this, like this person doesn't really like that product. I think people are getting better at noticing that kind of stuff. So, I mean, authenticity, as cliche as this is going to become increasingly even more important, so that you can get past, people's radars, right? Like ideally, you don't have to like their radars can be fine-tuned, and you're so authentic that they realize that you're authentic and you get through to them, right? I think that it's about designing programs that can get through to people and maintaining a level of authenticity that is real, right? And making these programs extremely genuine, like optimizing for genuineness. I think that's going to be increasingly important. And I think some of these social platforms, some are going to wax, some are going to wane in importance. And I think it's just a matter of knowing who you want to reach and where they are spending their time, right? Like TikTok, right, came out of nowhere over the last like 3 years, and now all the young people are on TikTok, right? Where were they before? Maybe Snapchat, maybe a little Instagram, but now if you want to reach certain demographics, like TikTok might be the place for you.
There's even old people on TikTok, so just so you know.
And there are even old people on TikTok now, and
everybody's on TikTok. It's because it's amazing how many people go, I'm not going to be. It's like every channel that comes out or every social that kind of, you need to be on there because you don't know if it's going to be the next thing that's going to take off. I look at it as like another form, and this has been forever. When everything started, I've been in marketing, and I have my bachelor's in marketing and master's in marketing, and basically every channel works for you. You just have to utilize everything that's out there to get your message across, because you have some people who don't go here, but they go over here, and you need to be where they are. I think one of the problems we're going to have going forward is trust. A lot of people, even though you're going to show people doing the trash thing and doing certain things, they're going to think they're only showing that so that I buy that product. And, you have those people. And I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff going forward that we're not going to trust with everything that's happened in the last few years and going forward. And it's going to make your job a lot harder to get that message across so that they do feel the authentic person in that. And that is the message. And they understand that. Right.
Yeah, no, I completely, I agree that it's all about trust, right? We were talking about that earlier. And it's about, maintaining trust as a brand. And I think that influencer marketing is uniquely positioned to be that trust maker, if you will. So I think that it is going to evolve to be more of that. And it might end up becoming, a very valuable component of the marketing stack for that reason.
I agree. All right, Justin, anything else you want to drop today before we go?
No, this has been great. I think this was it was a great conversation, and thanks again for having me on the show. And we'll be in touch.
All right. We really appreciate you being here today. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining us today on Inner Edison. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and what our guests shared. If you like what we do here, just follow for more. And again, Justin, thanks so much for being here.